and welcome to the Snickerdoodle Knits YouTube channel. I am Jessica, the knitting designer and teacher behind Snickerdoodle Knits. In this video, we're going to talk about color blocking, specifically how to join your yarn and how to wrap your yarn when working in Intarsia. So this is a method that we use anytime we're putting up a solid block of color next to other fabric. So here, this blue is a separate solid chunk from this, but we're working it at the same time. So basically, we just have to wrap our yarns each time we get to this blue section to make sure it holds together correctly. So right now, this tutorial, I'm recording it specifically for the United States flag dishcloth pattern, but this technique works anytime you are working a block of color. Now sometimes you'll have, say, a square in the middle of your fabric. So say we had stripes going all around and just the square here. What you would need to do then is have separate strands of red and white on this side and on this side, so that you can pick up more strands over here. I don't know if that really makes sense. I won't be demonstrating that, but just if that's a scenario, that's how you would do it. Now, let's talk about this here. So this is just a small little sample. And what we're going to do now is we're going to join that blue yarn. So here's my blue yarn. And for the initial join, I go ahead and I like to twist the yarn a couple times just to make it stay a little tidy. But really, this join here, you're going to end up weaving your tail in at the end, right here, and that will close your gap. Sorry, right here at that corner. When you weave in that tail, that'll really help close in that gap. So here I've just wrapped the red yarn around my new blue strand to try to keep it tidy, and I just start working with the blue. And so that's all you have to do to join your new color for a color block. Whoops. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn and just work from the wrong side, that blue section. And then when we get to our red, we are going to want to twist the yarn here. So we will always bring the yarn from the stripes, which here is that red and white that we're alternating here. We always take the yarn from this side and put it over the yarn from the blue side. So if you're looking at the right side of the fabric, always taking the right side and twisting it over the left side. And then of course, when you're looking at the wrong side, it's the opposite. So here, it's taking our original color, which is this red. That's what we were working with. And twisting it over the blue. So all you have to do is just lift it up and put it over the blue. So just bring the red to the front or to the back of your fabric. And we will knit there. And then after a couple stitches, I just go back and I tighten this up. So just pull on the end of the blue. Just tighten it. All right, and now we will just work our original color, which is our red stripe. We'll work that on its own. And then we do the same thing when we get over to the blue section again. So remember, we take our original color, the red, wrap it around the blue. So just wrap it around the blue, cross it over, and now we're going to work with the blue. So you just have to wrap it kind of a half turn there. And then a couple stitches later, I go back and just pull that snug. Oops, I can show that again. Just pull that snug right here. And then we work the blue section. So it's really a pretty simple technique. The main thing is just making sure that this here is plenty snug. And then making sure that when you weave in your tail for that blue yarn, that you just close up the gap. So here we are again to the connection point. So we'll bring the blue and we just wrap, sorry, I keep getting off the screen here. Just wrap the red over. So here we have the blue, wrap the red over, and just bring it to where you can work with it. And again, just a couple stitches afterwards, go back and snug that up. And so that here we just have a nice closed section here. The thing is, if you, if you don't twist, if you don't wrap that yarn around, your fabric won't be connected. So here you would have two separate pieces of fabric, and you'd have to come back and just bind it together, like with a sewn edge. And the other thing is, if you don't pull this tight here in the back, it's going to be very loose and sloppy, and you won't really be able to fix it afterwards unless you were to go back and do some like kind of mending work. The other thing that I wanted to mention here, not specifically about this method, but if you're working the flag, once you start your stars, so like for this dishcloth, you want to work a separate bobbin of yarn or a second strand of yarn for the white here that's separate from this. So what I did was I just pulled from the center and from the outside. So I worked from the outside for the stripes and the center yarn for the stars. And the reason for that is because they're really working separately. So when you start a stripe, you want your white yarn to be over here, but your stars are always over here. So it's easiest if you're doing the stranded colorwork method, which is option 1. It's easiest to have two separate strands of white. So that was just an aside there. But here we are again at our join. And again, we always wrap our original color over the second one. So wrap the red over the blue. And now you can just start working with the blue. And again, work a couple stitches and then come back and just snug that up. Snug that up right there. I'll show this just a couple more times because I know for some reason I'm really struggling with the screen placement here. I should have raised my camera up, I guess. So I'm not always on screen. But yeah, so we just work our blue section. Bring the blue to the wrong side here. We'll wrap the red over the blue and then bring it to where we can knit with it here. And after just a couple of stitches, come back and just tug on that blue yarn to tighten it up. And then you can start to see how it's just kind of interlocking there along that connection point. And for the sake of this demonstration, I'm only going to work with the red here on the side, but of course if you're working the stripes, you will be changing back and forth between the red and the white for your stripes. All right, so we just wrap the red over the blue, and then work with the blue, times later, we go back and we just pull. I'll lay this down. Pull there to snug it up. So did you see how that just tightened that stitch? That's all we need to do. And with this method, you see your yarns do start to get tangled up a little bit. So just remember to untangle those as you need to. All right, I'll just do this one more row. And this is the same method you use for the entirety of the color block. So here, bring the blue to the wrong side, wrap the red over the blue, bring the red to where you can knit with it, work a few stitches, come back and tug on that blue yarn. So that just tightened it up. So here I decided to go ahead and just show you how to bind off for this specific project. And I'm just doing a simple bind off here. I'm actually on the wrong side of the fabric just based on where I stopped for my sample. But the technique is exactly the same. So we're just working a simple bind off, and that's all we're doing the whole time, but we will be dropping the red yarn when we get to the blue yarn. And I think actually in the pattern it's the opposite way, so you work the blue yarn and then you drop for the red yarn. But anyway, I'll just show you how I do that, and it really is as simple as it sounds. I just drop one yarn and continue with the other. So here it says my last red stitch, and then when I get to the blue, I just drop that. Go ahead and give it a little twist like we have been doing for the rest of the section, and then start with the blue. And so you will see the red overlap into the blue for that one stitch, but you just continue your bind off as per normal. And I'll go ahead and show you here what that looks like when we're all done. So you'll just weave in this tail, just weave in this tail for this yarn, which will actually be blue for you. You'll end on the red side. So just weave in that tail in the middle here, and it's just a nice smooth, sorry about that, it's just a nice smooth transition there. So that is how you work the joining the yarn and then wrapping the yarn for a color block or Intarsia colorwork knitting. So I hope you found this video helpful, informative, and easy to follow. If you still have some questions on how to work this, I recommend slowing down the speed and going back and replaying it. And then if you still have questions after that, go ahead and leave those questions in the comments below. I am happy to answer those and excited to see what you make with your colorwork. So if you found the video helpful, go ahead and hit the thumbs up to like the video, and subscribe to Snickerdoodle Knits for additional knitting content like this. I do technique tutorials for all of my patterns, and I have design overview videos that tell you all about the design before you ever purchase the pattern. So I hope to see you around, and happy knitting!